when I was working with Gym Launch and Hormozy, I'd have other gym owners that would call me and they would say, should I hire him? And very simply, I would say, only if you'll listen to him. You can't hire somebody who says he's going to help you and then pick and choose what you think will work. You just have to surrender. That is the only way to truly know if what that person is preaching will work.
Eric Basek, a visionary U.S. Coast Guard reservist, determined to revolutionize the world through the power of social media.
Eric created an innovative platform that empowers creators to elevate their content and make impactful contributions to the community.
You want to be an entrepreneur and you do hire somebody, man, just freaking listen to them. Don't waste your money. If you're not going to listen, what's the point, right? Every resource you can imagine exists. You want to open up a pizza joint? Find the Alex Hormozy of pizza joints and hire them. Immerse yourself with successful people who are doing what you want to do and learn from them.
What advice do you have for people who haven't figured it out yet?
You are as flexible and malleable as you allow yourself to be. And Alex said it in a post a couple of days ago. He was like, I wouldn't want to go back and do it all over again, but if I did, I would be richer. And it is because...
No hustle worship here, we're a different breed. Action is what we got if action is what you need. Content capitalists, we're breaking the mold. Cause the old ways fade, new stories to be told. So content capitalists, get to the prize.
This is the Content Capitalist Podcast, and my name is Ken Okazaki. There are as many ways to make money with content as there are people doing it. So listen in as my clients, past, present, and future, unpack how they crack the code to making $1 million a year or more while capitalizing on their content. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast. I've got a special guest with me today, and this is somebody who's actually a recent customer. But when he and I were doing business together, he started sharing me his backstory, and it was so interesting. And the only thing I was thinking to myself and kicking myself is, this is not a private conversation. This should be on the podcast because his story is so cool. And he's helped a lot of people who are creatives at heart, who love creating, who love sharing their hobbies and their passion and the thing they love doing the most, and helping them make a whole bunch of money while doing it. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ken. That's a good summary. It's exactly what I like.
Well, it's a dream come true. There are so many people who are just like, I just want to, do the thing I love doing and have fun documenting it. And they don't dream that they could be making a lot of money doing it. And you've bridged that gap. And the more people that know about what you do, the more people are going to want to work with you, because why not make money while doing the thing you love doing more than anything else? So, Eric, could you give us a brief description on your business? What is it you do? And maybe probably a more nuanced version of how I described you.
Yeah, well, so I guess I'll start with what I'm doing now. My story, how I got here, the route was very circuitous, but what I'm doing now is I am the co-founder of a company called Remarkable, and we're a pseudo media company. It's really what I think we're developing into, and we partner with primarily YouTubers, creators who have I would say an up and coming audience, somewhere around 750,000 followers. But what's more important is they're an engaged audience. So within the first 1 to 3 days that they publish a video, they're seeing anywhere between 40 and 100,000 views. And that's the key metric that we look for, the 40 to 100,000 views. So they are an entrepreneur. Maybe they don't know it yet, but they're a creator that loves something, and they've created a business, and they might be at the point where they have a job still, and they're doing this like on the side, or maybe very recently they just quit their job, and we help them monetize their audience. The short story, to a tune of 5 to 20 times more than even the most optimized channels are currently doing. And we do that primarily with sweepstakes that are catered to their channel and to their audience, with virtually no work on their behalf, making it as easy as possible.
Eric, thanks so much for sharing that. I think that's a lot of people who are really going to appreciate knowing that they don't have to do both sides, right side of the brain where they're creative and fun and all that energy and stuff, and the left side having to, deal with all the business end of things. And it looks like you're the one with the business brain, and joining you together with somebody who's got that creative brain, it looks like it's a great money model that you've got going. let's dig into your background a little bit, because you've been through a lot of things, and I see in the background you've got a lot of military type of paraphernalia, and that must have affected somehow the journey that brought you to where you are. Would you mind sharing us a bit of the background?
Yeah. Um, you know, I grew up in a trailer home, exactly as you might imagine. Trailer park in New Jersey, um, you know, not from much means. And my parents worked their ass off. But despite having, not much of anything, they volunteered their time. Yeah, that left quite an impression on me. Despite not having much, they were always volunteering. So my father was a police officer and an EMT and a firefighter, and my mom ended up becoming a nurse. And so that left a big mark. And then 9/11 happened when I was 18 years old. And at the time, I was on a first aid squad following my dad, as an EMT. And so after 9/11, I decided I no longer wanted to be in school. I wanted to be like those guys. Like I remember vividly turning a corner between two buildings and seeing like hundreds of folding chairs and cops and firefighters and volunteer workers just like sleeping on these folding chairs. I was at ground zero the first, like 3.5 days, 4 days. And I remember being like, you can't put a price. There's no intrinsic value. There's no way you can measure that. Like in my mind, it seemed to be the most gratifying thing in the world to just fully commit yourself to strangers and to care and serve. So that shaped a trajectory that took me out of school. At the time, I was going to full academic scholarship, left the scholarship, and I pursued both law enforcement and military. Law enforcement happened for me first. So I was a police officer in Washington, D.C., and then in New York City. And I left law enforcement to get back into, education and really to become an entrepreneur, which is what I always wanted to do. And since you're asking about the military, after that journey, 12 years into that journey, I missed wearing a uniform so freaking much that in my late 30s, 37 years old, I enlisted in the military and went back to wearing a uniform. So I'm still currently in. First, I went enlisted, did that for a couple of years, and then went through officer candidate school. Now I serve as an officer in the Coast Guard Reserve. Left law enforcement, but that's the military and law enforcement paraphernalia in the background. I just serving is perhaps the biggest part of me. It's in my veins, and it translates so nicely to my general approach to business. Being able to help another business owner, particularly one who might be struggling, experiencing the same problems every business owner has, not knowing how to optimize, not knowing tax code, and not knowing, corporate code and policies and hiring and firing and all of those struggles. And probably the greatest satisfaction that I get out of the business is helping the business owner in the same way that in a uniform I might be helping a stranger.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your service. And I'm Japanese, and I'm saying that because I'll tell you what, if you guys weren't around, like Okinawa and the bases here, Japan would be in a lot of like constant stress, if not actual like conflict, like physical conflict with some of the neighbors in this area. So thank you for your service.
America is not a perfect place, but I still believe in the
you guys do stabilize this region, though.
Yeah, I believe in the American vision. I do the good in all of us. I hope somebody's got to stand up for the little guy. I believe in that. That's why I wear the uniform. It's corny, but
perfect. Eric, I'd love to pivot into how you got into the current thing you're doing with Remarkable. And you were explaining to me the business model, and I was blown away with how much you put into coming up with this concept, testing it, reiterating, and building it to what it is now, to where you have I'm not going to say the number because I want you to say it, like how much money is coming through to your creators and the way that all works out.
Yeah, look, I'm super proud. I used to be embarrassed about numbers, and Hormozy kind of took that out of it. Why be embarrassed? And Grant Cardone too. Why be embarrassed about the numbers? We paid out over $1 million in the last 12 months to YouTubers. I don't think anybody pays quite at the rate that we do while providing the same benefit at the same time. We work with quite a bit of YouTubers and pay out quite a bit of money. But I got to make sure that I give a lot of credit to my co-founder, Justin, because he's where the original idea came from. the entrepreneur's journey is very, I think there's not an entrepreneur that exists that hasn't felt the exact same pain, just in a different way, depending on the type of business they're in. And Justin, my co-founder, he ran a mechanic shop, MR2. They were working on these Toyota MR2s, late 80s and 90s, and they were doing these engine swaps with an imported engine from Japan. And they were making no money because there's just no money in that kind of work. And there were a couple of big car companies doing giveaways, notably Diesel Brothers. And one of Justin's customers was like, "Hey, you should try doing a giveaway." And it seems crazy. Like it just seems crazy. Like you have a merchandise store. People are already purchasing on it. Why would you give a car away? Like how could you believe that suddenly there'd be so many purchases that it would justify giving a car away to one of the customers? But he tried it, and overnight tripled his revenue. Within 30 days, in the first 30 days, tripled his revenue. And over the next 7 years, he built a giveaway company on cars alone. But he built it on the back of ads, which is how nearly everybody does it. And the short story is, one day, a friend he met through the industry who happened to be a YouTuber, his name is Brian Reeder, and he runs the channel Regular Car Reviews. And they love cars. Justin and Brian love cars. And Brian had promoted a couple MR2 giveaways with him. And, they're like, well, what if we work together? Like, what if I promote the giveaway to my audience and you do the back end, you do all the stuff that you've learned for the last, 8, 9, 10 years, you do all that. And I'm just going to do what I do great, which is like get in a car and film, right? And I'll tell my audience they can win it. They beta tested that for a few months and it did wildly well. And so the idea from myself and a few other people in Justin's circle was, well, why are you just doing cars? We could expand this concept. And we can find YouTubers and creators like Brian that have an audience and a niche, and we can bring something exciting that their customers, their subscribers who become customers, would really love to participate in. We could bring that to the channel, and that's what he did. He did that first with Brian, and now at the company we do it in watches, guitars, outdoor cooking and grills. We got a great grill partner, Mad Scientist Barbecue. Firearms right now is very America, #America. But we do really well in the firearms space, particularly since they are underserved because Google and YouTube hate firearms. They don't want to monetize them as much. They're going to strike their channels as, you're going to have fewer advertisers. So the firearms space does really well for us. But collectively, it's kind of a primarily male conservative audience right now, the space that we're in. And that's kind of like where we came from. Is a lot of credit I want to make sure it goes to Justin, who really is where the original idea came from.
Amazing. So right now, how are you finding or qualifying the kind of people who you want to invite to work with you? Or do you have such a long line of people that you just get to pick and choose?
No. You would think, Ken, you'd think we'd have a long line of people. The amount of money we pay, I have checks right here on my desk. I don't know if this is going to be an audio or a video recording. I got checks right here. I had to take pictures of checks and post them online because people don't believe we pay what we pay. They don't believe it. So no, we don't have a long line. We do get referrals, and referrals help because there's trust, right? But, a la Grant Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Hormozy, we're just busting our ass sending cold emails to anybody, any email address we can find. And the hard part about that is our pitch sounds like it's fake. It's almost like we're, hi, I'm Eric, a Somali prince. And if you, respond and jump on a Zoom call with me, I will send you gobs of money. It's like, nobody believes us. So it's successful as we've been in the last year. Our struggle is the same struggle that, the pizza joint on the corner, when they open up, getting customers. And right now we're just knocking on doors the old fashioned way. And until hopefully brand over product, people see that we're Justin and I are two good dudes, cool, conservative, that, we like the things that our partners like, and we want them to be successful, and our success is tied together. And eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, they come to us.
Perfect. And, what you just said reminds me of this scene in, I believe it's Stranger Things, the Netflix show.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to expose this big, conspiracy that happened. And then the news reporter is just like, no, we can't say it like that. We have to dumb down the truth to something that the public's going to believe. And then they said, oh yeah, there was like a chemical spill, instead of saying, yeah, there's aliens coming from the netherworld.
I remember that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes, maybe take, make it sound more believable. And then when they trust you, tell them how much money they could really be making. I don't know. Maybe there's a strategy around that.
We're trying. We've tried exactly that. A lower tier performing partner, they're all good. A lower tier will do a $50 CPM in the first 36, 48 hours. On 100,000 views, we're going to cut them a $5,000 check all day long. If they're, in the right niche and product niche, and that not every channel, but the channels that we know will work. But that's poor performers. We're doing more like $200 CPMs for our good partners. And those numbers are just so not believable. So we stopped telling people them, and we started telling people, oh yeah, it's a $25 to $50 CPM to get them to feel like, oh, that sounds reasonable. They've got reviews. I'll get on the Zoom call. And for us, the face-to-face, getting them on a Zoom call is the first real step towards, getting them to be a partner and see that we're tied together in their success.
Yeah. Quick story from my end. I last year, I think it was Q4, I did this. No, it was actually Q3. I launched a coaching program about making video and content creation, especially around short form. And it did super well. And we had a small cohort. There's like 12 people. And the average revenue per person was, I think, $18,000. And they had put in $3,000 to work with me. So it was great ROI for each of them. And then I ran it again. I took all the testimonials from these guys and I used them as ads, and I put them on the landing page and stuff. And the second time flopped. And people were like, I think the testimonials, they looked scammy because these guys were talking about how much money they made. And I got so much hate from social media for showing real life stories and evidence when the first time I had zero. So lesson learned, it's just like, even if it's true, don't brag too loudly, because people just can't, they're jaded by all the fake hyperbole out there, aren't they?
Yeah. And I feel like entrepreneurship is a kick in the teeth, like a lot, often. And if you get anybody that's been around for more than a couple of years, they, cops, here's cop story. I'm definitely a bit cynical at times and a bit difficult to gain my trust because everybody lied to me. Everybody. Every sentence was a lie. I mean, if I pulled you over and said, where are you going? The most normal person, right? Just like your neighbor who doesn't mean to lie will lie. They're not going to tell me where they're going. They're not going to tell me how many drinks they had. They're not going to tell me anything. Like everything is a lie. So you become so jaded. And as a business owner, if you've tried this Facebook ad course, this TikTok ad course, this Insta, you follow this guy and that guy and nothing works, you start to think nothing works. And that can definitely jade you in this game. And if you do bring real value, can make it very difficult to get through to people. It's hard to believe that you're genuine. We worked with a fairly famous individual in the firearms space. And I don't want to say we had a falling out. We just kind of drifted apart a little bit. And my gut tells me it's just like he couldn't believe we would just be, and it sounds like really terrible to say, but like just we would be so caring and so giving. Like it doesn't make any sense. There's got to be something wrong. Like somehow you must be not telling me something, and you're not compensating me enough, or you're keeping something. It's just like this distrust, and it's really sad and crazy. But it's not going to change. It's not going to change anything for us. We're still going to, do the best we can. Just every once in a while, we might have a bourbon and cry about it to our spouse.
Could you walk me through some of the patterns you noticed in YouTubers who are doing really well and becoming the ideal like prospects for you, and the kind of people who you might pass over for certain reasons? Because there might be some YouTubers listening and thinking like, okay, how can I optimize myself so that I get to work with people like Eric?
Yeah. So that
now, besides just the viewership, there's got to be some other intangibles.
Yeah, for sure. And that question gets me excited because I'll backtrack. I hired Alex Hormozi. Right now he's blown up. Everybody knows who he is, right? But in 2017, they didn't really know who he was. They might have seen an ad of some guy with a weird looking mustache jump onto the screen in a guinea tea and be like, "You should join my whatever." Like, you know, his if you saw his old ads. But I hired him a while ago, and I hired him because there was a day where I was literally at my kitchen table looking at bills, talking with my wife, and I couldn't afford to pay my staff. I couldn't afford to pay myself. I couldn't afford to pay my bills, and I couldn't afford to pay my mortgage. And it was either keep the house or keep the business. And I kept the business. I sold the house, you know, and that was really, really tough. And that's what led me to hire Hormozi. So what are the traits of YouTubers we work for? There's kind of two parts to the good and to the bad. The good, one that's kind of it just is. It is what it is. They're in a product category. So they are, you know, they review motorcycles, they review cars, they review hunting equipment, they review, you know, there's products. That's just kind of, it has to be. Like, we don't do well with news channels because people don't go to a news channel to discover the newest expensive, you know, outdoor smoker, you know, or a Traeger grill or whatever. They, you know, story channels don't do as well. So it's got to be a channel that is in a niche that covers lots of products that are cool, particularly if there's a level of product that would be fiscally irresponsible to buy for your average person, right? Like, we deal in the fiscally irresponsible prize. You know, it's like
that could be a YouTube channel in itself.
Wow, we've actually
irresponsible products.
We've thought about fiscally irresponsible and starting our own channel, Justin and I, just traveling.
That would actually be fun.
It would be fun, right? And it's like, that's what everybody
it's product
dreams.
Porn is what it is.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah. Everybody dreams of having this. So that's why it does well. So our YouTube partners, they're in a niche where there are cool products and people are like, oh, I would love to have this. Or I'm thinking, you know, that's got to happen. Also, they're up and coming, meaning they're making enough money that they can either quit their job or they have quit their job. But they're not making so much money that they're turning down offers. Once they're turning down offers, they're generally very difficult for us to work with because they don't want to be associated typically with sweepstakes, because in their mind, it's a pejorative. Even though one of the oldest industries, it's war, prostitution, and gambling, right? Like the first three jobs, you know, soldier, prostitute, and lottery or gambling. And it's how P.T. Barnum started, you know, Barnum and Bailey he did a lottery company. So for some reason, once you make enough money, you just don't want to do it. So the up and comer, who's not good. One, you can't control the people that do news stories and takes on stuff like that. You know, a musician that didn't review guitars, you know, like if he was just playing music, that wouldn't do really well. But also the people who don't do well are the people who aren't yet willing to listen. So they're doing too good for their own good, but they're not good enough yet to really be wealthy, right? Like, it's like when somebody opens up a business, in the first year, the business skyrockets because they weren't there before. So they get the new customers, you know, they don't have any of the problems yet. And so they're making enough money to like pay their bills, but they're not really making enough money to purchase new camera equipment, hire their first or second employee, or maybe they haven't even realized, I'm actually an entrepreneur now. Like, if I had a videographer, I could put out more content. They're not thinking about scaling. They're not that yet there. And the good partner knows that that's the future and is looking for that help and is looking to grow the business. And the partner that wouldn't be great for us is the one that's like, either doesn't realize it, or they're just not yet willing to grow. And I don't mean that in a negative. They're just not there yet. There's the first 7 years of my business, I clearly wasn't there, and I was so bad it cost me my house. So it's a common, you know, it's a common thing in the entrepreneurial journey. So they got to be willing to learn, big enough that they are thinking about scaling and in a position to maybe scale, and also typically in some sort of product niche for us.
Love it. And if everybody's listening, then and you tick off all those marks, I do recommend check out the links in the show notes, or if you're on YouTube, look at the description. Quick question: how's it going with the house? Did you get to buy it back yet?
I didn't, but I'm in a better house now. Now I left New Jersey. Okay. I left New Jersey, and I didn't leave just because of the weather. I left because we're now starting to make enough money where I don't want to pay the taxes. And yeah, life is much better. But you know that, like, that makes it difficult. Like, I'm saying to you, on one hand, partners who are making too much money are hard to work with because they're making too much money. At the same time, recognizing in myself that as we start to become successful, it becomes so easy to take your foot off the gas. And keeping that edge and trying to stay sharp and trying to grow is really freaking hard for myself and for my
And
partners.
how do you do that?
Man, I don't know. You know,
What efforts do you take?
I don't want to say I don't know. I think I do know. Tony Robbins tells a story where he was asked to speak for the Marine Corps. And the guy convinced him to speak by offering to let him drive tanks. You know, it was kind of like, I'll let you drive tanks if you come speak to the Marine Corps for free. And so Tony did. And he's telling the story that while he's being driven around the base, the general's like, Tony, these kids, and, you know, obviously when you're older, everybody's a kid. These kids are the best they will ever be right now in their life. And many of them will separate from the Marine Corps, and then they'll just become regular civilians. They'll gain weight, they'll get bad habits, they won't exercise. And he was like, why is it that they're the best they'll be right now and they can't keep that when they leave? And so this is a big part of Tony's presentations, which is you are, you know, it's said by other people as you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. And that's something your parents have probably said to you. Your parents are just like, oh, who you hang out with. But it's further than that. You are the sum total of the expectations of your immediate peer group. Meaning if your peer group expects you to perform and expects you to exercise every day and expects you to read the book and to learn and to grow, you rise to the level of that expectation. It's like if you have 5 friends who don't smoke and would never want you to ever smoke, you would never imagine lighting up in front of them. And so they, you know, a rising tide raises all ships, but it's not just positivity or positivism. It's the level, the standard that they have for you that helps you hold that standard. So what do? I am trying really, really hard to immerse myself in every way possible in an environment where the people around me are making me better. I've joined a CEO forum that's local here to Sarasota, where I'm surrounded by people who, you know, the minimum requirement is to have a business that does $3 million a year. So they're successful entrepreneurs. I follow all the people I'm sure that you follow or know of, like yourself, like Hormozy and Vaynerchuk, and you know anybody that's got a good message out there that's pushing others. And I podcasts, reading, immerse myself in an environment where to not succeed would be almost a ridiculous concept. I would have to quit, give up, and retreat, you know, into my dark bedroom and never come out for success to not come my way.
Wow. I think you said it all. I think you said it all. When you're going through this entrepreneurial journey, and you know, you still are in the military, you were in the police force, and entrepreneurism, is there like a conflict between these two types of careers, or are you seeing them like supporting each other in most ways?
There is 100% a conflict. The government is not supportive of, in general, you have to get lucky. Jocko is an anomaly, right? Like he is an anomaly. It is not easy to work for a command top, you know, to the top and to the bottom, below you and above you, where they want to hear other people's opinions and they want the idea of growth and putting out more. It's very difficult. And it's the argument between communism or Marxism and socialism and capitalism. If you just give everybody everything, what's the incentive to perform? Well, in the government, for any, and not just the government, your regular standard job, if you just show up for 40 hours a week and do the minimum effort and you get a check, and it's hard to discipline you and it's hard to be fired, and there's no incentive to do anything other than the minimum, most humans will default to the minimum. And unfortunately, that is the military, and not just the military, but the civilian kind of like corporate world, you know, like what you might consider a corporate world environment. Whereas an entrepreneur, the leaders, not the employees, but the leaders, the entrepreneurs themselves, they can't help it. It's like in their blood. To be like everybody else is just, it's anathema to who they are. And so they push. And the problem that I've run into, that I've gotten better with as I've gotten older, is I go to work in this military environment and I want to be an entrepreneur and I can't. So what I have to do is essentially shut my mouth and just do what I'm told. because that is the environment. That's the environment that it is, and it is what it is. And now that I'm older, I can accept that. When I was younger, I wasn't very good at accepting that.
So you're playing quite a few roles, aren't you? Like you're a husband, I believe,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And
15 years.
you're a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and you're also kind of you're dealing with social media too. So that's a lot to juggle, because I think there's different personalities in every single one of those roles.
I do. I think I'm uniquely. I don't even want to say equipped. I think I'm uniquely like cursed in that I like everything. And so perhaps one of my downfalls is that I don't have that laser focus that Hormozy would talk about. Like, just do the one thing. Like, that's not in my nature. Like, I want to do everything. So yeah, I like the different sides of me. And life is so short. Life is so short. I couldn't imagine not doing all these different things, you know?
Got it. All right, we're gonna come to a close soon, but Eric, what advice do you have for people who haven't figured it out yet? And I think that a lot of people believe they have the calling to be an entrepreneur, and maybe they dabbled, they've got their YouTube channel, maybe they started an agency, they tried a bit of coaching, they try to do e-commerce. I'm not sure what they dabbled in, but they're kind of shooting around, and you seem to have navigated quite a few things. So I think you're in a fortuitous position to give some perspective on this.
Yeah, two pieces of advice I give everybody, basically, if they ask. When I was working with Gym Launch and Hormozy, I'd have other gym owners that would call me, and they would say, should I hire him? And very simply, I would say, only if you'll listen to him. You can't hire somebody who says he's going to help you and then pick and choose what you think will work in your gym. You just have to surrender. Like, just surrender. That is the only way to truly know if what that person is preaching will work. And so for me, Gym Launch was very successful because I just threw everything that I thought I knew out the window, and I was like, whatever you say goes, I'll do it. So the one thing is, you say they dabble, like, it is common. You dabble, you hire a course and you watch 1/4 of the course or 1/8 of the course, or you never open it, right? Like, you want to be an entrepreneur and you do hire somebody, man, just freaking listen to them. That's my first piece of advice. Don't waste your money. If you're not going to listen, what's the point, right? And the second thing is, hire them. Surround yourself with every resource you can imagine exists. You can find them for free and you can pay for them. And I find both to be valuable. But if you want to open up a pizza joint, man, find somebody that's coaching, find the Alex Hormozy of pizza joints and hire them. Or find a really good pizza restaurant and go work for them for a while and work for them cheap. Immerse yourself with successful people who are doing what you want to do, and they are where you want to go, and learn from them. This is how everything was done for thousands of years. If you wanted to be a mechanic, you learned from mechanic. If you wanted to be an iron worker, you want to make swords in the 1400s, well, you apprenticed from a sword maker. Go do that and listen. Have that open mind and be humble. And I don't see how you can't. I don't see how you could not be successful if you did those two things.
I love that. And I think that whether or not, like right now, you're not doing what you were doing at the time when you hired Alex Hormozy to help you in your gym business, but every single thing you learned in that process is still with you. It's a part of you, right? So I think too many people obsess over, is this what I want to do with the rest of my life? And therefore they vacillate on, oh, I'm all in or I'm not. And I'm kind of preaching to myself here.
You're right on. There's so, it's like, I've been a police officer in the military. I've owned a gym, a charity. And when I moved to Florida, I had friends and family that were like, I cannot believe you're just picking up and moving. We live in the greatest country in the world. Yes, you can pick up and move. Yeah, you can quit your job. Yes, you can be a realtor for 5 years and take those skills, or you could work at a card. Yeah, you could do all those things. Like, life is, you are as flexible and malleable as you allow yourself to be. And Alex said it, I think, in a post a couple of days ago. He was like, I wouldn't want to go back and do it all over again, but if I did, I would be richer. And it is because he would have the skills. So you can't look at failure and be upset at all. I mean, it's just great. Everything is a lesson learned, and you can take them with you, and they will make you wealthier. You may not be wealthy in 1 year, it may not be 5 years, it may not be 10 years, but you stick with it, surround yourself with the right people, and you will become successful.
Awesome. Eric, thanks so much for being on the show. I enjoyed every bit of this, and I feel selfish because I'm just asking all the questions I genuinely just want to know about. I think my audience loved it too. And we didn't talk as much about content creation as we usually do. However, I think that this is a broader picture on entrepreneurship, on careers, on just finding what works for you and jumping all in with it. That's what I took away from it. And it's never too late to change if you're not happy with what you're doing right now, even if it is going well.
Yeah, and I would say, if you're mostly speaking to content creators, that the one thing I would say universally applies is, in my experience, many of them don't realize they're actually business owners. And just because your business is online doesn't mean you don't have an actual business, not that different than a pizza joint. And it may require hiring people, maybe not now, but in the future. And hiring means it requires the skill of leadership and managing people. And your customers may not be paying you yet, but they might be one day if you add a course, and your customers are your viewers or your subscribers. And understanding customer retention and customer outreach. These are all evergreen business principles. And in my experience, and if I were to give a message to anybody listening who was a content creator, I overwhelmingly find content creators are focusing so much on the content creation and not the business foundations, that they're missing out on this huge opportunity. For your pyramid to be built tall, you need a wide base. And that base is that those basic entrepreneurial or business skills. And you can't neglect them just because you're great at content. You can if you hire a great partner and then you have that partner do that. But don't neglect the business skills.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And I would take all those to heart. I agree 100% with everything you just said there. Eric, I got to wrap this up, but could you give us a quick roadmap for anybody who might be listening who thinks that they want to work with you with the sweepstakes content creator program that you have? Remarkable.
Yeah, just remarkable.io. We spell remarkable without the E on the end. So it's REMARKABL.io. And there's a partner application right in the homepage. And you can go to the testimonials, and you'll see some of the big channels we work with on YouTube, and reach out. And look, even if you don't work with us, we'd love to jump on a Zoom call, talk about your business, and share some advice. Life is not a zero-sum game. We'd love to see everybody be successful, and we think everybody can be.
Perfect, guys. Go check out the links. And Eric, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. For everybody else, I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Ken.
No hustle worship here, we're a different breed. Action is what we got if action is what you need. Content capitalists, we're breaking the mold. Cause the old ways fade, new stories to be told. So content capitalists, get to the prize.
This is the Content Capitalist Podcast, and my name is Ken Okazaki. There are as many ways to make money with content as there are people doing it. So listen in as my clients, past, present, and future, unpack how they crack the code to making $1 million a year or more while capitalizing on their content. Let's get started.